Don in London, hello. It's September 19th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or both, as is true in my case. Addicted to alcohol, my substance, and behaviour. Trying to be, wanting to be, addicted to being with the right people, in the right places, doing the right things, and wanting the right things. Wanting everything. Trying to make it perfect, and not realising that the destination, that is perfection, is never going to happen. But I thought it was what I was supposed to do, and I kept on doing it over and over again. So drinking to distraction in the end, to a place of madness, and then losing everything in terms of people, places and things. No people, preferring isolation, no places, ending up on a park bench with nothing, and no things at all. And I guess I needed to clear the decks in some strange way, letting go of everything while still trying to hold on to it. So that's the madness. We lose everything, yet trying to hold on for dear life and grim death to a way of life that we think we ought to try and follow. And the more I tried to stop doing self-harm, that is drinking, the more I lost, because it was self-will, willpower, which failed, because that's the nature of addiction. Our willpower, or self-determination if you like, the ability to make good choices, is lost as we try and fix ourselves with drink and behaviour. And strangely enough, it turns out that most people who are driven so probably have fear of not having enough of something, but not really understanding what it is. If I improve something, life can get better and I'll feel better, not realising if I feel right, I can do the right things and find the right answers. Yes, tormented I was, and that went on for a long, long time. And with a lot of gratitude, somehow or other, people, family in particular, friends and professionals kept me alive long enough to get a moment of clarity around what I could do to get back on track. And it meant stopping thinking a certain way, which was for 35 years, that I would be able to overcome anything on my own. I was going to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, and that life would be better once I really established I could do it all again. Trouble is, we can't replicate what we don't have anymore. And then came a fellowship into my life, not of my own volition, because it never occurred to me that it would help me. And that was the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I never speak for AA, cannot, do not, don't want to, because AA is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength and hope about sobriety, and each person shares as they choose and where they choose, and that is absolutely as it may be. We are all in it together, and we don't share other people's stories or what works for them, but we learn from others. So my story is intertwined with the wisdom I learned from other people. So what you see here is probably my words and other people's ideas and outlooks as much as anything, but my own personal take on it, which is unique and authentic to me. So each person in the fellowship is unique and authentic. There are no leaders, no spokespeople. I can share about what makes recovery work for me, but I don't share about other people, because it's based on anonymity, where we can have the confidence to share the truth of who we are and find out what the truth of who we are is and the impact it can have. So truth lies behind everything and is the real spiritual connection to living, the ability to cope with what's going on right now. And some people feel that is religious, and some people feel that spiritual is simply the ability to cope with what is going on. And that is what many religious people say, living in the moment. And really, the fellowship of AA has taught me how to live in the moment and live life as it is, not as I might wish it to be or bend it to my will, my self-will, which failed me, my willpower, which is not necessary to survive these days. Acceptance of life on life's terms, if you like. Doesn't mean I'm going to have a life which is governed by something else, but it doesn't mean excuse me, I'm back. I'd forgotten I had a project planning meeting with somebody who's doing a project. So 3.5 hours later, I'm back. Where was I? Yes, self-will, willpower, all that stuff. Didn't help me at all when it came to sorting out my problem with alcohol and people, places and things. Those behaviours which were addictive, keeping on going to the very last moment of nervous collapse, and collapse physically, which is what happened to me. In the end, I had a nervous breakdown, stopped drinking for a couple of years, got back on my feet and started drinking again. And it was one drink that led to another and another and another. And I guess the insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That is the definition of insanity. I think it was Albert Einstein said it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I went back to the same old in the end, which was trying to find comfort by blotting out reality. And the reality just got worse and worse and worse till there was nothing left. That's how it happened. And in recovery, life has got much better, much clearer, more obvious where things will work and don't work. And forgetting that there was an appointment this morning. How did I do that? Anyway, it was good. It was revitalising and using some of the old skills, but doing it in a way which was positive for somebody else. Yes. So, Alcoholics Anonymous, it's helped me be me. I want to share the AA preamble, which is so important, and then some reflections from the literature of AA and my own. So, starting with the AA preamble, which is on this little card, I read it out rather than recite it, because I can get it wrong, or I recite it and don't know what it means to me. So here we go. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So it's all about helping others in whatever capacity we can. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. And that's it, simply a desire to stop. And there are no rules, laws or regulations in the fellowship, because it would get in the way. It would either include some people or other people would feel excluded. So the broadest church, if you like, of people, a desire to stop drinking from all walks of life. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so if you haven't got any money, it doesn't matter. The fellowship is free. You can come along, eat the biscuits if you need to, just to sustain yourself like I did in my early days. And it's not about money. Money is never the issue. We don't keep large amounts of money. We just have a prudent reserve, enough, and not excessive. And this is part of the basics of a new life. Enough is enough. And if there is more, or plenty, you can change what you do with it. It's up to you. Life can get better, or we remain somewhat poor materialistically, because part of the promises is feeling right about our circumstances. So if there's enough, enough is enough. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. But every person in AA belongs to something outside fellowship, be it family, community, ties and work and everything else, or not working for whatever reason. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, but often outside the fellowship we do. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes, but outside fellowship we may do. So inside the fellowship, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, which is part of the reason why I think originally these videos started, because it was started as a project asked by people who were not part of the fellowship, who wanted to know more about it, and then it sort of grew into something else, which is sharing experience, strength and hope from fellowship, and also reflections which have happened to me over the years. So with that in mind, from this book, everything's in chaos now. I've got stuff all over the place. That's what happens when you're helping people. It's very untidy in here now, my living room. This book, Daily Reflections, it covers the 12-step program of AA, generally, one step a month. So September is all about step 9, which is making amends to people we have harmed without doing further harm. So it's making restitution where we can. And it's not about us getting some feedback other than what people say to us. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes we don't feel anything. But the point is, clear the wreckage of the past. To say where we can make amends, we do, and where it's going to do more harm, we don't. But maybe we do something else, which is the living amend, living to a new set of principles of being open, honest and willing, and letting us be part of life again, being included, rather than trying to control it all. Control did no good for me, unless it was required within organisations where I worked. So we have to obey the rules of work and see how we go with it. So the daily reflections from the book, the daily reflections book from AA, are as follows. It's about acceptance. Acceptance. We admitted we couldn't lick alcohol with our own remaining resources, and so we accepted the further fact that dependence upon a higher power, if it's only our AA group that we go to, the meetings we go to, where the wisdom is, could do this hitherto impossible job. The moment we were able to accept these facts fully, our release from alcohol compulsion had begun, and that was, as Bill Wilson wrote, that he was one of the co-founders of the fellowship some 80 odd years ago. It goes on to say, freedom came to me only when my acceptance that I could turn my will and my life over to the care of my higher power, whom I call God. This is the person writing it. Serenity seeped into the chaos of my life when I accepted that what I was doing through was life. What I was going through was life, and that God would help me through my difficulties, and much more as well. Since then he has helped me through all my difficulties, when I accept situations as they are, real life as it is, not as I wish them to be. Then I begin to grow and have serenity and peace of mind. And my friend who came today said, why is it you're always smiling even when life is pretty difficult? And it was, I'd forgotten this meeting this morning because I was in pain, and my slip discs are playing up and I've got a trapped nerve. So I've done something over the weekend which has tweaked it, and it's made it almost impossible to walk. And why am I alright with it? And the simple reason is I accept it as it is, and that I need time to recuperate. There is no quick fix for me when it comes to this. When it goes like this, I need to accept that moving around is going to be very, very difficult. And I take a deep breath when I say that, because it does hurt. So this thing of handing our will over to a higher power and saying, okay, if I don't know the answers, or I can't make it the way I wish it would be, what's the next best thing to do? So if I share about it, I can get feedback either from people within fellowship or outside it, and that's what I call my higher power. So for me, God is truth, love and wisdom. Truth is reality, not my way of wishing it so. So truth, love is about how to love people and be loved back, and be equal around that, unconditional. helping, supporting, being a part of, included. And the wisdom is what comes from other people. So my higher power is very practical, and it's very spiritual, because it's in the moment of now. And it's not about religion for me. It's not about being part of a particular religion, and nor is it based on AA. AA suggests you use the higher power which suits you. So the wisdom of others inside and outside the rooms, truth and love, that's what works for me. And I can't explain God or define God, but somehow I seem to believe in God as an understanding of a higher power, and that the wisdom of the universe is out there and it's not inside me. And if I could define God, I guess I would be godlike, and I'm not. I'm just another human being living on the planet. So some of my thoughts, which are quite long and extensive, so switch off at any time when you've had enough. I say that, just be practical, because I do go on a bit. This morning, this is what was on my mind. I need to accept my emotional, spiritual and physical condition. So emotionally, feelings are good. I got to a meeting last night and listened to many sharing their truth. And for me, spiritual, always based on the truth of now, starting with my feelings, which impact on how I think from moment to moment. So the pain, this is the physical bit, physical condition, not so good, aggravated by slip discs and a trapped nerve in my back. So I can feel right in my head, take account of not being so mobile today, can do, cannot do, wisdom to know the difference, which is part of the serenity prayer. So I know what I can do. So spiritually, feeling life right, or feeling right with my life as it is in the moment of now, which is to be able to cope with what is going on. So I'm not overwhelmed by history impacting and saying, oh my God, here we go again with the back. I just know it's very, very painful, and I need to rest it and be practical about it. And same with feelings. My feelings in my head are pretty good. I've just spent 2.5 hours or so with a person that I care about, helping them with a project, and I have some skill in that area, which is very little used actually, but it's good to see if the practical side of those skills is still applicable, and they seem to be very happy with what we've done so far. So life keeps on going. It's interesting. And these writings were before this person came to see me. So contingent on my spiritual condition, that is, dealing with the truth of my situation, I am free to make the best choices. Now, had I realised just how bad my back was, maybe I would have chosen not to have the meeting, but somehow it was better to have it now, rather than worry about having the meeting later in the week when there wasn't time. When I am unsure, I ask myself, what advice would I give another with similar opportunities today? So, if I put myself in the shoes of an advisor to another person with what's going on for me, I liberate myself from my feelings of should, could, ought, must do. Be realistic, there is only so much I can do today. Then I check my suggestions with others dependent on the issues and options. So, had my friend not come, I would have phoned up a friend, most likely my sister actually, and talked about it. Letting go of knowing the right answer and checking with people who know, asking for help and advice, I am more likely to accept what I may do today, because I'm always driven. I'm a driven person, usually, probably driving myself back into the ground if I'm not careful, and when that sort of attitude is in me, I need to step back and be calm. And the urgency of most of what I need to do can be altered, providing I have a list of things to do. So a to-do list is helpful. This is just my own personal understanding and planning for today. Anyway, previous years, my goodness me, this thing about God, and I'm not saying that glibly, because I do believe in God, and I feel happy about that. But for many a year, I was an agnostic, atheist, or believer, depending on my life situation. And don't forget, if we had no presence or understanding from society or community about God, we would lie on our back at night and look at the stars and think, must be, what on earth made all this? Thought-provoking, actually. You know, think thousands of years ago, people were doing astronomy, mathematics, to a very, very high degree. And how did they do that without the ability to write? Well, of course they did to an extent, but mathematics, the whole of the universe is based on mathematical formulae, and physics, and chemistry, and biology, and science, which are hard facts about something which is far greater than us, and we can't understand completely. Every time we send a satellite into space, we found out so much more. I'm very pleased to just sort of be here, see it, and understand it to an extent. Don't understand a lot of it, because I'm neither mathematician, physics person, or chemistry person, or biology person. I'm a human being me. So some interests I have, some I don't. So some talk about saving the planet, all manner of organisations to save our world. And we've all become more aware of our carbon footprint. Do we have power at all? Somehow it can feel futile, a bit like King Canute and his court at the seaside. Well, my friends, Canute said, it seems I do not have quite so much power as you would have me believe. Perhaps you have learned something today. Perhaps now you will remember there is only one king who is all-powerful, and it is he who rules the sea and holds the ocean in the hollow of his hand. I suggest you reserve your praises for him. And this was Canute. The royal officers and courtiers hung their heads and looked foolish, and some say Canute took off his crown soon afterward and never wore it again. And it was all about whether he could push the sea back, and his courtiers said, well, of course you can. And of course he got his feet wet because the tide came in. A bit like human beings, we don't realise the actual forces of nature sometimes. The important thing for me is planet Earth. You know, planet Earth will always be here, but we won't. Planet Earth, part of nature, providence, as life is, not as we might wish it so. We do have choices today, personal and as society, over many aspects of human doings. And the whole world is changing in a great big way, which is quite scary for politicians who can't keep up with it. But somehow we humans on the sidelines, who are not trying to control anything, can see the bigger picture more clearly than often politicians can. Doesn't mean we're right and they're wrong, although in my own mind a lot of them are wrong in what they're trying to do, because they are constrained by secrecy and having a particular slant on how society may be organised. And at the moment it's hurting a lot of people with no good reason. That's just how I see life, but that's just me. Yeah. Powerless over alcohol, people, places and things, feels like letting go the need to try and control the impossible. Yet even the sober in this world are still driven to believe they have control. Mostly it is an illusion of their choosing. But when they've got guns and weapons and goodness knows what else at their disposal, they make their best effort to bend the whole of the world to their view. Not helpful. And I let all that stuff go. But I do see it and I do comment on it. And even commenting is a way of persuading and influencing people to let people get their life back together and stop making it worse. Acceptance of life as it is, truth, love and wisdom seem to flow more positively, rather than trying to hold back the tide of denial we humans need from time to time. Denial a necessary buffer against our reality, when reality is too shocking to comprehend. Namely, powerlessness over an outcome we do not want or like. Death and taxes are two favourites. Death of loved ones, grieving process, denial is part of it, until we can understand how we can keep on living with the losses that we've had. And taxes, who wants to pay them? Losing an old life of drinking and what may have been perceived as happiness is history. Gaining new life causes gaining a new life causes grief and denial as we let go. We all have grief. We can deny it and cover up, and then we find the issues just keep piling up. And when you're doing project planning with a person with a big idea, and it's fantastic, it's a fantastic idea, which I can't share about. Sorting out the project and the personal and the impact and who needs to be involved, all these stakeholders, all the scoping of life, which is beyond just being sober, is magnificent to see, and also very, very difficult to do. Anyway, coming back to me in the other years, fellowship, 12 steps and 12 traditions actually offer freedom from the past and an end to a mountain of denials, and opportunity let denial work for us on a daily basis. Yes, what was I trying to say there? Very simply, we have tragedy in our life, no matter what. The older we get, people die around us, or leave us, or become part of something else, or we become part of something else. And we don't necessarily work our feelings out around them. We're so much focused on the next right thing, we don't realise the depth of the impact. So daily denials happen around simple things like journeys. I can't believe it's taking so long. I can't believe that person was rude to me. I can't believe just how nice that person was to me. Denial is happening all the time. So if we know what our feelings are in the moment of now, emotional, spiritual, then life gets better. Yes. When we get those times, I cannot believe it, moments in recovery, we recognise sooner rather than later what is going on for us. Hard times where we barely cover our needs, becoming easier to accept when we realise we still have life to live. So I'd given up on life, and I would have quite happily have opted for no more, thank you. But I'm still here, funnily enough, and there are good times and bad times, just like life is. So if it's 50% good and 50% bad for the rest of my life, what a wonderful experience, and it's spiritual in a moment of now. So I can keep on being open to the choices that are available to me, and the only way I know what choices are really up for me is to share and be included. In step 9, the promises can be quite obscure as we live the steps and learn about ourselves. As we realise old ways need to change and we mend our ways of living, there is a promise of a brighter outlook. So the brighter outlook for me is living in the moment, knowing what's going on and coping with it. And it means we need to change our ways, to be honest in our living, to be open, honest in our living, working with the truth of our situation as it is and what the choices we have. For the promise comes true daily as I live to truth as much as I can and hold to an outlook and a way of living which fits with life as it is today. So I don't hark back to the good old days, or piles of money and piles of alcohol and piles of relationships, romantic, I thought, trying to make them perfect, but they were just events rather than actually getting to know and cherishing a human being. I thought if I had provided the right background, it would all happen. But the reason why it didn't happen most often was because I really didn't understand my emotions, and I had a very difficult way of seeing the world based on how I'd been taught. And there's no blame in that, because the previous generation probably had it even worse and never came to a place where reality and being in reality and living in the moment of now was possible. Yes, and then last year, acceptance, reality of recovery, a meeting recently, a man sits nearby, relapsed 3 days ago, grim and fearful, another one, a year sober and astonished, opposite me, another, 2 decades sober, accepting all life has thrown at them, and another saved my life years ago. Sober, we cherish and accept life today. And knowing that somebody else saved my life, and I said it again to them a couple of years later, you don't know just how important you were in helping me get to fellowship and recovery, because I wouldn't let anything in, but the spark was set. I know my neighbour's alright, the dog's barking downstairs, which is a good thing because I've been worried about her as well. And I was going to drop a note in, but now I know she's okay. I think I might just drop a note in anyway. It's good to know you're alright. By the way, I'm actually thinking of swapping where I live so I can be on the ground floor, so I don't get the aggravation of stairs and slip discs. Which is odd, because I'm just really enjoying where I am. It's taken me 4 years to get to a place of calm and feel it's nice and good and okay to be me in my surroundings. So serenity in one instance, and a need to move to different accommodation probably. And life on life terms, spiritual acceptance is difficult. Sobriety offers the gift of spiritual living, which is living in the moment of now. And I know I keep on going back to that, but the only place where spiritual or any significant change can happen is now, if it needs to be a significant change. But we are changing daily in sobriety. Either we're getting more sober, where it has more depth, and we don't need to worry about our sobriety. We just have it and share it, and it's everlasting because it's only working now, and we work at it. So it's part of our routine. If we are sober, the rest of life can happen, and we can live in life rather than observe life and wish it different. Open, honest and willing, we come to accept sadness and joy. So, life is 50-50 if we're lucky. That we feel everything in the moment with more clarity as we make progress. Our choices are imperfectly perfect today. So, imperfectly perfect. 2.5 hours spent with a friend over something which is of great significance for them, and quite significant for me because I'm being helpful, and I'm told I'm being helpful rather than hindering. And I'm not trying to shape the outcome either. It's not my project, and that's most important too. I may have some organising skills, planning, organising, decision making and problem solving, all those things, to help people write the book on it, or the many thousands of books on project management, but they're all very similar. If you know where you are, you know where you want to get to, what are your resources, and how are you going to do it. It's a bit like sobriety really. 12 principles sounds like a lot, and they are in a particular order to learn about them. But when we utilise the 12-step program, every step means something in the moment. So step 9 around amends is always in the moment, often. Step 10, step 9 is clearing the wreckage of the past. And then step 10 is about dealing with things in the moment. And a classic example for me, yet again, I take photographs around London, which I'm perfectly entitled to do. And sometimes the police will stop me and say, what are you doing? Who are you? Name, address. And there's a great big form to fill out if they are eager to really find out who I am. But normally I give them a little card with my website on, and they can find that on their phone immediately or in their car, and they know I'm not a terrorist. But sometimes other people may be unhappy that we're just taking photographs, and if I'm challenged and somebody said, have you taken a photograph of me? I'll say yes, but obviously you don't like it, I'll delete it, but I'll show you the other one so you know what I'm doing, which is showing how people live, walk, be part of in London, the scene of London. And then some say, oh, well, actually I don't mind, it's a good photo. Can I find it? I share how to find it, and it's free, and nobody's making any money out of it. And life goes on. But Saturday, somebody said something which was completely untrue, and started to be quite confrontational, which is illegal. I was going about my peaceful business, and they were impeding me and not being very helpful, and I suggested they get the police. because I know what the police are going to say, and this person was also actually doing something illegal. But no names, no petrol, no harm done, except I did explode and said some bad words, just because I could, and it was an expression in the moment, and my immediate feeling was relief. I asserted my position, but I took it a bit too far, because I could, and now when I look back, I didn't want to do that. I'm human, making progress and not perfect. So I was neither right nor wrong. It was just a wrong action in a wrong situation. It can happen to anyone. And thank God we don't have guns and knives and bullets these days, or whatever. In olden days it would lead to a duel or something because of the principle involved and being right. Do I want to be happy or right? I can be both, happy and right. Right that it's better to let go than confront when it's impossible to change a person, people, places and things. I don't govern, I don't rule, I don't control. I'm powerless over those elements. And when I provoke those elements, it will come back and haunt me. So gentleness is better, understanding is better, collaboration is better, inclusion is better, because it leads to deeper understanding of human activities. And nothing, absolutely nothing, need be that confrontational if we can be inclusive on a personal level. Then comes the whole of society, which we have absolutely no power over. It takes a long, long time. And civilization will keep evolving way beyond where we are. We've come a long way in 2,000 years, and maybe not quite as far as we would have wished to think. We have the principles of living in a society. I tell you what, the 12 steps have saved my life. I don't tell you, I share. They've saved my life. The serenity prayer, the can do, can't do, and wisdom to know the difference of what I can and cannot do in any particular situation, helps me keep stable and let go quickly of anger, denial, frustration, depression, where it is possible to do that. But there will be long periods of learning to live through grief until we get to a place of cherishing. Anyway, enough of me for today, far too much in fact. The Serenity Prayer, which I share at the end, is on the same card, AA, what it is, 12 steps and 12 traditions inside, and the Serenity Prayer on the back, which starts with God. So it can, whatever your higher power is, if it's simply good conscience, which is informed from the wisdom of the universe and people, as you wish to call it, the higher power, I need input from others to keep me sober, and to be with people who understand the dilemmas of sobriety and sticking with it, just for a day. So to God, or in good conscience, the Serenity Prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference in the moment, often changing in the moment, and just for today.